tremendous looking trophy.
One PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Tom Blunt. Joining me, as always, Ashley Holber.
Hey, Dylan, excited to be here. What a week.
What a week indeed. It's a dystopian future we're looking at, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, that's what that. I mean, I feel like they fell a long time ago, but maybe that's just me. That's fine. So yeah, this week there's not really much news because obviously the Game Awards were last week, and if you want to hear us discuss all of the trailers and that stuff, go listen to last week or this week technically. The up-to-date episode.
The most recent episode.
Most recent episode of Arcade Couch, literally titled "The Game Awards 2020." I got one thing I want to talk about from Game Awards for this show, but let's just spend the majority of this episode talking about Cyberpunk, I guess, because that's the oh boy, it's a whole thing. It's just developed. It's got worse. I don't really know. So, 16 hours ago, as of recording, I'm just going to read their tweet that they posted because they posted they're now known for these fucking yellow placard fucking text things that they post. Anyway, dear gamers, I wish it was a bit more corporate. Dear unfortunate consumers, thank you for your money and fuck you. Dear gamers, first of all, we would like to start by apologizing to you for not showing the game on base last-gen consoles before it premiered, and in consequence, not allowing you to make informed decision about your purchase. We should have paid more attention to making it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Yeah, probably. Second, we will fix bugs and crashes and improve the overall experience. The first round of updates that have just been released, and the next one is coming within the next 7 days. Expect more, as we will update frequently whenever new improvements are ready. After the holidays, we'll continue working. Fucking lucky they get holidays, I guess. That's good to hear that they're letting them have some Christmas off over at CDPR. Good for them. We'll release 2 large new patches, starting with patch 1 in January. This will be followed by patch 2 in February. As they get together, they should fix most prominent problems gamers are facing on last-gen consoles. We'll be informing you about the contents of each patch ahead of their release. It's exciting. Look forward to some patch notes. They won't make the game on last-gen look like it's running on high-spec PC or next-gen console, but it will be closer to the experience that it is now. Finally, we would always like everyone who buys our games to be satisfied with their purchase. I think everyone usually likes, we would appreciate it if you would give us a chance. But if you are not pleased with the game on your console and don't want to wait for updates, you can get a refund for your copy. For copies purchased digitally, please use the refund system of PSN or Xbox respectively. For box versions, please first try to get a refund at the store where you bought the game. Should this not be possible, please contact us at help me refund at cdprojectred.com. I love how there's a full email address. And we will do our best to help you. Starting from today, you can contact us for a week up until December 21st, 2020.
I assume that's when their holidays
I assume they're taking a week off or something, or maybe the rest of the year from December 21st to...
Probably like 2 weeks off, yeah, maybe, if they're lucky.
I think you're being fucking... very generous with the 2 weeks off. Yeah, so Cyberpunk's not in great shape. Obviously, there's lots of things to break down here. Firstly, I am still in somewhat utter disbelief that, like, I saw the head dude of CDPR or whatever, like, he shared that post. Look in the comments. And there's like several people being like, oh, thank you. So glad for all the updates. Bunch of people saying stupid shit like, oh, thank you for the team for doing such a good job. You don't deserve the hate you're getting. I'm going to purchase a second copy off GOG because you deserve our money and all this stuff. And I'm like, we're beyond the point where if this was any other company, EA, especially Bethesda, anyone else, Ubisoft, heads would be rolling at this point. You know what I mean? Like, but there's still a select core group, I guess, who are like hanging on and going, well, because I even saw someone in the comments, IGN put out their review. I was skimming that just before we went live. IGN put out a review solely for the base PS4 and Xbox consoles, and they gave it a 4. And their tweet for the review literally said, "Do not buy this game," which I don't think I've ever seen IGN tweet out before and just say, "Do not buy this game. And in fact, if you have, we suggest you get a refund." Like, that's what their tweet said with their review. And in the comments section to that, someone's like, how ridiculous is it that, I'm misquoting, but they were like, how ridiculous was it that IGN reviewed this game when CDPR has already said that they're going to patch it in January and February, and they've reviewed it now? And I was like,
it's before Christmas. This is like the biggest selling portion of the year.
It's like
parents are going to be buying games for their kids, even though they shouldn't probably buy CD.
Probably shouldn't buy
Cyberpunk for the kids.
Shouldn't buy,
girlfriends and boyfriends are buying presents, or partners are buying presents for their respective others. They need to be informed that this doesn't run well at all on base PS4s or Xbox Ones, whatever the name of those are. It's kind of crazy. This whole situation, that it came to this point that apparently they didn't notice that it runs terribly on the consoles. They didn't notice, air quotes, that it didn't run well on the platforms that were going to release them on. It seems to be running reasonably well on the highest end PCs. Maybe that's where all the goodwill is coming from. But yeah, I've played like 4 hours of the game so far. Both sessions have ended with the game crashing. Is like,
that's when you know to get off. So
this is maybe that is like
it's a file size
feature. You need to take a rest.
Yeah.
But then I had another bug where this massive emotional moment's happening. A person is meant to pull like a chip out of their thing. The chip is replaced with a model of a pistol. So they pull a little pistol out the side of their head and hand it to you. Yeah. So it's obviously buggy and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I barely scratched the surface. I am enjoying like the story and stuff, but I can't imagine how bad it is on PS4 and PS.
Yeah.
Xbox.
To break it down, if you got a good enough PC, it apparently runs fine. And I say fine because I'm pretty sure even on PC, from what I've seen,
there's still crashes.
It has a handful of crashes and bugs, but not to the extent that it would. I don't know, not more than you may expect a big open world where. Like, I do give some leeway for open worlds to have a couple bugs at launch, and that's because I always remember that story
about
about
fix everything. Yeah.
Well, it's like there's so many variables, and like I always remember that story about Fallout New Vegas where there was a weird bug discovered where if you killed someone and then took his hat and then took it to a certain town and then like dropped it inside the town, it would just cause your save file to delete or some weird shit like that. And like obviously that's horrible, but the takeaway I took from that was. But what's the developer? Xbox owns Obsidian. They were like,
"Yeah,
there's no way you could have. We did not.
We're supposed to check what happens when we take hats from every single person.
Yeah, they're like
and drop them everywhere.
Yeah, it was like one of those things of obviously we do a lot of, games go through QA and all this sort of stuff, and they get most of the stuff. But this was like such a random queue of events. So. I give a little bit of leeway to open world games for random bugs. Other than that, I think that if it has too many glitches and stuff, obviously there's a line you can cross. But on PC, it's still a little bit buggy or whatever. PS5, Xbox are basically getting like they're more or less getting the pro version of the game running slightly better. It's not obviously a next gen version, and even those are full of a lot of bugs, crashes, as you're saying, and then the worst case scenario is the base models, and the number throwing around at the moment is that apparently 41% of all pre-orders for Cyberpunk were for consoles. And obviously you can't tell based on that who's playing it on base consoles, pro consoles, PS5s. But given the fact that new consoles just come out, they're sold out everywhere. There wasn't actually that many of the things in the first or second waves going around. Let's presume that most people are either playing it on pro consoles or like Xbox S X or whatever, which is basically just playing it on Xbox Series S at that point. But so 41% of all pre-orders being on console is pretty fucking high. This isn't like there's a handful of people playing on consoles and it's because obviously the one argument always been going around online at the moment is, well, and I mean to a degree, I'll shoot blame where in our direction in our house when it's warranted. Kieran to a degree was saying this on Arcade Couch last week, and we had to fucking pull him up on it, you know. But it's always like, well, it's a PC game, and you know you're playing it on console, so it's your like it's a weird blame game where it's like, well, it's
working fine for me.
It's working fine for me. It's your problem. Yeah, it's like your problem for playing on console, but it's like, no, it's not, because they fucking sold it on console. They not only sold it on console, but they look. You can play naive if you want, and that's your choice, list to watch or whatever. You can play super fucking naive, but let's boil down the facts. They sent review copies of the PC only version to the big outlets, the ones, and also the big outlets who were most likely to really like the game. And then we know why they did this, because a week after you get this whole story about, need to hit that 90 on Metacritic to get bonuses, which then they fucking backpedal.
Well, I think that's been a thing for a long time.
That's been a thing since fucking PS3 days. But most developers, I haven't heard a developer, I haven't heard that being a thing at a studio since.
No, I believe that story, like specifically on CG Projekt Red, came out a year or two ago, from memory. But yeah, it overall is not that important. No. Obviously, a lot of studios do this.
Well, hopefully not anymore. That's what I'm saying. I haven't heard many studios do it. It used to be very common. I haven't heard anyone talk about it until now. Like, it used to be it used to be like the default reward system, and then everyone was like, well, that's shit. Why would you do that? Because I always remember there was a big kerfuffle about was it Jeff Gertzman? I think it was, or whatever. Like, he gave, I think it was like Kane and Lynch or something like that, a terrible review, one of the Kane and Lynch games, or something along those lines. And then he ends up getting fired because there was a whole kerfuffle, and it was all basically caused from the publisher going off at whoever it was at the time and being like, because his review was gave it like a 6 or a 5 or something, and everyone else was giving it like 7s or 8s, and like it drove down the Metacritic score so much. So then the publisher spat it, and then he ended up getting fired. And it was a whole
but I think they were running
ads at the time.
That's the main reason.
It was like one of those weird things, but the driving force behind that was they needed the Metacritic score to hit a certain thing so they could get paid better or whatever, which is obviously a terrible whatever you want to call it, plan.
I don't think that's too much an issue. Obviously, if you do a great job, you should be compensated more. But, you know, that's just me.
I don't think you should. I don't think if you're in the realm of making any sort of art, quote unquote, your bonuses should not rely on other people liking it. Like, movies don't have a similar thing. The most equivalent thing in movies is literally
they got like box office sales numbers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I was gonna say the only equivalent thing in like movies is Oscar bait push type scenarios where maybe because if you get nominated for an Oscar as an actor or as a director or something like that, all of a sudden you can charge more for for yourself. So to a degree, I don't know if that's even the same, but it's the closest thing, I guess. But no, I don't think you should be getting paid for your work. Should do.
But they are getting paid for their work.
You should not be getting
It's just a
bonuses
bonus.
reliant. Yeah, you should get your bonuses.
It's extra.
Your bonuses should not be alive.
It's not guaranteed.
No, you should just get bonuses if you do good work, not if you hit a certain Metacritic score. That's stupid. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sure they do get bonuses for good work, but then they get another bonus for a good Metacritic score.
No, it's horrible. It's a whole like big square. Like it just pushes a whole narrative. Like doing that also just encourages weird sending of codes to certain people. It encourages like only allowing certain outlets who are probably going to give you good scores access to your game. It encourages it like the whole. I don't like any of it. It's all nasty. It leads to silly weird things. Fuck was I saying before we ended up all here? I don't remember. CD Projekt Red, yeah, that game, blah blah. Yeah, so they were hiding it basically. That was what I was going to say. They were hiding this, right? So you can play naive if you want, but the fact is they sent PC codes out to everyone. They were hiding the console code. They knew. There's no way around it. They knew that the game was absolutely fucked. They sent it out to the wild. They took everyone's money, and now they literally posted up a Twitter post 16 hours ago basically going, yeah, now that we got your money, like, would you want to keep it or do you want a refund? Because we got our 90 Metacritic, so shareholders are happy now, so we can do what we want. Kinda. Mm-hmm. So it's all fucked. For this company for a company that gamers like to put on a pedestal of being the most for the gamers company out there. Like literally all of their decisions they've made around their Cyberpunk video game have been the most corporate like bullshit type decisions you could possibly make in trying to publish a game and like get a certain Metacritic score and keep versions hidden from the public, and so it's kind of hilarious to be honest. It's like it's literally the worst case scenario for this game and this studio publisher, whatever. The worst case scenario has happened. I can't think of a worse case than this. This is it.
No, yeah, I think this probably takes the cake for a incredibly hyped game not living up to the potential. I think the game that constantly comes to mind around this situation is No Man's Sky. Because obviously that was hyped to hell and didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations. I mean, at least that ran. It just didn't. It wasn't as fully featured as people would hoped.
No.
And I mean that's the best Cyberpunk fans can hope for now. That CD Projekt Red does the same thing that No Man's Sky has done and continues to iterate on it, and hopefully it gets good eventually.
I
don't think it's going to get good on base consoles.
I'll be surprised. So on the Sean Murray thing, I always kind of gave to Sean Murray. I never hated him like the internet did because I always just thought he was a dude who was just a little indie developer. His game got taken away and then he got invited on all these talk shows and stuff, and he hadn't been trained how to do interviews properly. And he's a developer, and he was just always talking from the heart to a degree and being like, like all these things and ideas that he had, he would just start saying, when in reality, he should have been, someone should have trained him like an interview coach or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Be like, don't talk about stuff that's not officially in the game. Don't talk about, you know what I mean? Like all this sort of stuff. So obviously No Man's Skies is its own thing, but I never took No Man's Skies as a malicious intent to hide things. It was just someone getting carried away a bit. And then so the other thing with Cyberpunk that I find interesting is I do think this potentially will change games that may have been planning to release on everything in the coming year. Like I don't know what exact games, but we may never know what games may or may not have been coming to everything. But it's hard not to look at this and other developers out there or publishers, especially like Sony, anything first party Sony, like if they were going to put out Horizon on both, like And maybe it comes to a point where they're like looking at the way Horizon Forbidden West is running a PS4 and they're like,
no,
we probably shouldn't. Like, maybe this is a lesson for a lot of people to go, like, this whole idea of everything working everywhere and doing 18 different versions of the fucking game and different quality specs of PC versions. So you've built like fucking 50 versions of the same video game. Maybe that's not the best idea anymore. You know, maybe that isn't the best idea. In reality, CD Projekt Red should have. They should have. I don't know why they. I don't. I assume it comes down to shareholders having to. They had to release the game. They had to release the game to please their shareholders. I think at some stage. That's what this comes down to.
It's not just that. You look at all the merch that's come out in the last 3 days. They've got all these contracts with these different companies who are relying on this thing releasing to make money on their end as well. So they're getting pressure from those sort of companies as well. But honestly, the thing they should have done is said, hey, console versions aren't ready yet.
Yeah, they should just put the PC one out.
They should have just put the PC out. And even then, it's like, it's not great. Technically, it's kind of early access, to be perfectly honest.
It is like if they're like, oh, there's a patch coming in January, there's a patch coming in February. Like, it's more or less early access. Like, we plan for updates in the future to fix the game.
I mean, yeah, that or you put out a demo or something beforehand so people can have some sort of set expectations of what the game is so far.
Yeah, they should.
But yeah,
they 100% should just release it on PC, met in the middle. Should tell the shareholders, look. Unfortunately, as much as we try, it is unplayable on current gen consoles at the moment. And we are not going to release it into the wild like that. So I've decided just to release the PC version. We hope to release the console version late January, early February. I don't, you know what I mean? I fucking don't know. But here's the other thing, by the way, just to tie all this back into another big city PR story for this entire year. Oh, they've been crunching for 8 weeks. Oh, they've been crunching on and off for years. Oh, they've been crunching. They get Christmas off. Guess who's back into the office to try and fucking sort out this game? These poor fucking... the creative team's probably getting a longer holiday. You know, all the writers or whatever. But the poor, like, programmers and QA and all that sort of people get a week off for Christmas probably, and then they're straight back under it to try and fix this fucking mess. So... yeah, like just to add to that, so that's a continuing fucking mess at this stage. But
Dylan, they should have, if they'd done their job properly, then they wouldn't have this mess. That's a joke.
I mean, it's the other thing is like it always been like I don't know. I feel like most people for a long time it was like, how is this game gonna run in current consoles? Like it was always a thing of. What? How? If? Why? Oh, wow! They must be doing some technical wizardry to get it to run, and then it comes out and it's like, well, it doesn't run, and maybe they should never have even fucking tried to make it run. I don't know. Like, at what stage? And this is something I don't have the answer for because I don't have a majors in business or something. But at what stage is it bad? Would it have been better for them to have cancelled the current gen versions of consoles and say, we can't, it's fucked, we just can't do it. We're going to release it on PS5 and Series X early next year. PC version's out now. And they would have probably the stock would have probably dropped. You know, there would have been like all this bullshit at the time.
There would have been a lot of hate.
Yeah, a lot of hate and all this sort of stuff. But in the long run, if they were able to see the timeline we're on now and what's happening now compared to the negatives of doing this other run where they just don't release it, they cop a little bit of slack at the time, their stocks probably drop, fucking investors are kind of unhappy, whatever else, but then they put it on PS5 Series X, it runs great, everyone on PC is loving it, it's got all these above 90 Metacritic score. Like surely that's the better timeline, you know? Like,
yeah, but they didn't.
They did, but I'm saying like comparing apples to oranges.
I mean, they knew, but I think they just backed themselves into such a big corner that they had to be perfectly honest. Or they felt like they had to. Because can you imagine them coming out and saying, we're not doing PS4, Xbox One's copies? I'm sure like 100, nearly 90% of their pre-orders were probably...
yeah, well, I'm saying
those.
That's 41% of their consoles.
They've already made all these collector's issues. You know, and I mean, like you said, PS5s and Xbox Series X's are not easy to find, and even high-end PCs are not cheap. I mean, yeah, they can't definitely back themselves to the corner. Obviously, every single time they've delayed, sure, there's been a lot of people saying, it's fine, we'll wait till the game's ready. But on the other end, there's been so many like death threats and hate thrown at them every single time they've made any sort of announcement like that. Yeah, I feel like to a certain extent fans played a part in this. Also, why did Xbox and PlayStation certify these games? If they saw these and they weren't running satisfactory, why did they let
that's
them?
An interesting question to go. Do they check it? Does PlayStation check it on all consoles, or does the person sitting in the room like, I checked it on the PS5, it's fine?
Or they've got a PS4 Pro, a new one straight out of the box, like a new one every day.
That's interesting. I don't know, because from all reports, is as IGN said, apparently it's nearly unplayable on base console. So you do have to wonder. But PlayStation Lifestyle has a story and says, as reported by Fanbyte, Sony is upholding its internal digital order cancellation and refund policies, which state that once a game has been downloaded, it is no longer eligible for a refund. The one exception is, quote, unless the content is faulty. But multiple posts from people trying to get refunds show that Sony isn't considering Cyberpunk 2077 faulty, despite the glut of issues that make it near unplayable on PS4. Fanbyte's reporting shows that 3 separate chats with Sony support reps declining to issue Cyberpunk 2077 refunds due to the above policies on cancellations or refunds. While certainly not exhaustive, it's also not the easy and free refunds that CD Projekt Red promised players in its own post. It's unknown if CDPR even had the authority to issue a sweeping statement authorizing refunds through the platform holders, or if it spoke out of turn and didn't clear the refund agreement with Sony before pushing an apology. So I like this story because as soon as I read that CDPR Twitter thing, and they're like, oh, just use the refund thing on Sony's platform. I'm like, okay, I don't know Xbox's refund policy, but I know that Sony is like, once you've downloaded the game, you can't. Like, and that is a shitty refund policy, by the way. I'll put that, like, I think Sony should.
But I think
Sony should change their refund policy, but
I think Australia is different.
You can take it to
lawsuit last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sony Australia is doing refunds a bit better than probably whoever. I assume, this is Push Square, so they're probably taking it from a lot of American.
Last I heard, I saw Kotaku Australia write a story about PlayStation Australia a couple months ago, and apparently because when you still try to refund, because it's all still the one PlayStation network, so you'll get someone in whatever country, America, fucking somewhere else, and they'll be like, no refund because that's Sony's policy. However, as people are now, if you're clued on enough to Australian consumer law and all these cases have been happening, if Sony declines to refund you a game, you pretty much just forward that email to the place, ACCC, and they'll sort your shit out. But Sony is still, because that's their policy and like it's all handled through one thing, they don't have like a separate refund policy Australia like room or whatever. So if you are in Australia and you want a refund for your PS4 copy that's digital, you can just contact the ACCC and they will probably sort a whole bunch of people out, I would presume, over the next month. Wouldn't be surprised.
Tell you what, why would you get a digital edition, right?
Yeah, imagine
Imagine not being able to get a refund easily.
Well, I mean, as a side note, I think PlayStation...
Another reason that physical media should stay alive, Kieran.
As a side, I do think that Sony's refund policy is pretty shithouse. I like Steam's a lot more, or if PlayStation had something equivalent to Steam. Because I think Steam's is like 3 hours or less. If you play the game for 3 hours or less, you can refund it. And for a lot of games, 3 hours you can get like halfway through the fucking game. So it's very very forgiving, like it's a weird, because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if you brought like a massive RPG, 3 hours probably isn't that much, but if you brought an indie game, 3 hours is like half the game. So, but I suppose they just had to pick a number and they can't like, depending on the game, the length will change. So But either way, Steam has a pretty good refund policy. Sony should definitely change theirs because, especially now that they've got an old digital console, it's like, for fuck's sake, like fix up your customer support, whatever you want to call it. That'll be yeah.
And then in America, they don't. I believe like a lot of places don't do refunds, like the box stores,
really,
as well. So that's
Why?
Like as soon as you open the box packet, I don't know they're weird. That's why
they're weird. That's weird. I can't imagine that. That is on.
Can you? Is it really that shocking that America wouldn't give you refunds for stuff that you buy?
It's weird to think about because the amount of times behind closed doors, the amount of times that I've this very first world problem I'm about to share, but the amount of times I've now like brought a game from JB or EB or whatever, and then got home and then they're like, "Hey, here's a code. Do you want a review code or whatever?" I'm like, "Motherfucker!" Like, and sometimes I've already opened the game and stuff, and I just take it back. I'm like, "Oh, my housemate brought a copy. Didn't know. Don't need it anymore. Get a refund." So yeah. All right, let's run through a couple of news stories. A handful of things that happened. So, firstly, shout out to F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch. It got a sort of solidish release date during the Game Awards this past week. So, brand new trailer. It's coming to PS4, PS5, PC, spring 2021. Whenever the fuck that is. When's I should have done this before. Spring is I think that's
fall, like
March?
April to June, April to June, something like that.
That around that period, yeah. So earliest next year. That's exciting. Finally, be able to play F.I.S.T. I enjoy people watching live reacts to the F.I.S.T. trailer during the thing because some people who obviously had never seen the game before were watching this trailer, and I saw people like tweeting like, "What the fuck is this rabbit game?" with the thing. I also had this like weird thing after. I'm like, how hilarious is it that we've been talking about this game since it was shown in that the indie showcase in
PlayStation China showcase.
Yeah, like basically an indie showcase for Chinese developers. And we've been talking about it ever since then. For pretty much any time a trailer showed up, and now I was like, wow.
Since March 2019, to be clear.
Off, yeah. Super fans haven't even played it. Oh no, we played the demo. That's right.
You played the demo?
Yeah, I was on the Big Show Game Awards showcase now. Like this game's gone pretty far, considering where it started. But yeah, excited to play F.I.S.T. Obviously, I feel pretty confident being excited about it now because obviously I talked about playing that demo in the Steam thing earlier in the year or whatever.
Yeah,
and I was like, I was so glad that I actually enjoyed playing it because I was like, boy, don't make this a meme where I've just hyped up excitement for this game and it plays like shit.
Now you have to play it out of obligation.
Out of obligation for this fucking podcast. Yeah. So anyway, F.I.S.T. was there. That was cool. Shout outs. Spider-Man got 2 updates. Well, both Spider-Man games got updates over the past week. Miles Morales came first, and then yesterday, as of recording, or like Sunday night or whatever it was, over the weekend anyway. So Miles Morales and the original Marvel Spider-Man now have an update that allows you to play at 60 frames per second with ray tracing. So the Polygon article for the Miles Morales one says, PlayStation owners released overnight, the patch introduces a third graphics option called Performance RT mode to the game. This adds ray traced graphics to existing performance mode to allow for 60 frames per second action even with ray tracing. Until now, PS5 players had to choose between Fidelity mode, which runs it in native 4K resolution at 30 frames per second with ray tracing, or Performance mode, which drops the resolution and visual fidelity and eliminates ray tracing to deliver 60 frames per second gameplay. The in-game description for Performance RT mode suggests that it entails some further compromise to the graphics. It adds ray tracing by adjusting the scene resolution, reflection quality, and pedestrian density, which makes sense. So this is a cool sort of best of both worlds. Like from what I haven't tested it out myself, but from what I've seen, the general response on Twitter, people sharing videos and stuff, everyone's saying it looks pretty fucking good. Like obviously not as good as the proper 4K mode or some things it tones down, but it's like it apparently it looks great with the ray tracing and it runs at the 60 as promised. So I feel like if when I get the time to go back to do my new game plus run on Marvel Spider-Man, the first one, I feel like this is probably where I'm going to play now. Like, because I think I was going to play 60. I was just going to play in the performance mode. So it's like, why wouldn't I just play with the performance RT mode now? So it's kind of cool.
So it's definitely both because it says Miles Morales. So.
Yeah. So this news story was just for the Miles Morales, but they did release it for Marvel Spider-Man the other day as well.
The remastered, yeah.
Yeah, for the remastered one. Yeah. You should clarify, yes, the remastered one, not the PS4 version. Marvel's Spider-Man remastered also got the same patch, also now has performance RT mode. So they both have 3 graphic options now. Play your harder, do what you need to do, yeah. So that's pretty cool. I like how that even after releasing both games, they're still just like, I assume it's because maybe it's just learning the hardware to a degree. Like they get to fuck around and like, can we make like a mode that runs at 60 with ray tracing? And, you know, like it helps them, I guess, for development in the future kind of thing. And here's my favorite story of the week. So PlayStation Lifestyle writes, PS5 heists involving high-speed vehicles are occurring in the UK. The PS5 is in hot demand right now, apparently hot enough to warrant literal Fast and Furious style heists of the console from moving high-speed vehicles, dubbed the rollover. Gangs will box in trucks filled with shipments of high-value items, in this case the PS5. They use ropes to climb over the truck, cut into it, and then toss the items out to the other waiting members of the gang, all while the vehicles are still traveling at 50 miles per hour more. UK outlet The Times reported that the UK is seeing an alarming increase in the rollover to steal expensive electronics from shipments as the holiday season approaches. Through the year, this tactic has been used at least 27 times in various heists. Drivers have been given alerts of the tactic, but it's unclear how they can effectively handle the situation when it's occurring. I can't believe... like, it's something we probably shouldn't laugh at because, like, you know, this is criminal activity. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's fucking hilarious. Like, I did not know that.
It's like, what? And England of all places.
It's like,
do they even have long enough roads for people to pull these off?
That's a good point. I'm like, do they even have trucks there? Can they?
It's like, do they have long enough highways?
Yeah.
Or are they like,
can they even do this?
Are they doing it while they're at a roundabout?
Yeah. This is one of those things, right, though, where, like, so I knew that Fast and Furious, the first Fast and Furious movie, right? It was based on like a article that someone wrote about street gangs or racing and all this sort of race culture and all that sort. So it was based on like true story or true-ish stuff. But the one thing I never thought that people actually ever did, because I never read about it or seen or like whatever, was the stupid the truck heist, because it always seemed like the most like too dangerous to be plausible type heist. But the fact that they're like, oh yeah, people are doing this but with ropes, it's like, in comparison, in case you haven't seen Fast and Furious, by the way, for some reason, what are you doing with your life? Go watch.
You're listening to our content?
Yeah, go watch the Fast and Furious movies and go listen to our podcast. It's about apparently Fast and Furious podcast. So
that's the name of the podcast.
That's the name of the podcast. In the movie, they fire like crossbow type things into the passenger seat with like a wire or whatever, and then they use that to climb into the front of the truck, and then they like basically knock the driver out, and then they steal the truck, the entirety of the truck. Like they're not chucking stuff out. So I guess the difference with this story is apparently they're using ropes, like I guess that have something on the end that lets them like climb aboard somehow. They're then opening up the back or something at the same time, and then they're chucking out the stuff.
They're cutting open a hole in the side of the truck.
Yeah, or something like in the Fast and Furious.
Probably opening the back of the truck.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
That would be easier.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what's
you just have to break open the thing.
Yeah. So the Fast and Furious opening has got nearly everything right, but they don't like stealing the trucks too far. That's the line. You got to chuck the stuff out and take off into the night. I don't know. But
I mean, it's pretty risky.
I know.
Unless they got like they've got a car with like a massive net behind it.
Maybe. I don't know. They break half the consoles as they're throwing them out. And by the way,
no, maybe it's like a ute, but like they're doing it in reverse. So they've got a car in front, slowing it down, and then you got the Ute, and they just chuck in all the
Pretty sure now.
all the PS5s.
Pretty sure now we're meeting somewhere between Fast and Furious 1's opening scene and Fast and Furious 4's opening scene where they steal the gasoline.
I'm sure they've watched all the films. Clearly,
yeah.
I'm sure this is the inspiration
for stealing stuff. They're like, these films made us want to steal stuff.
Yeah.
And Universal Pictures is
I only watched like the first half. I didn't watch the part where they learnt their lesson. I
mean, by the end,
he got away.
Yeah, he got away, but he's not living. He's on the run, so it's not really.
Just need to not let people into your gang. That's all.
No, there you go.
Don't let new people in.
Keep your family tight.
You gotta listen to Kevin. Whoever it was, the dude who was against Paul Walker in the first film.
Oh, I can't remember his name actually. That guy.
Kevin.
No, it's not. No way is that his fucking name. IMDb, the Fast and Furious. Hold on, I can't continue this podcast. The one who showed, the same dude who doesn't show up again until 5.
Yeah, 5.
His name is Vince. You're fucking
Vince. Close. There was a V in it.
Kevin.
I mean, you rearrange the letters. It's Vince.
I was like, Kevin. There's no one in this fucking. Can you imagine someone saying Kevin? Kevin is not a name you can give to a tough guy. Yeah, you don't want to fuck with Kevin.
Wow. Cut this out.
Why? Not
all
loud.
Kevin's out there.
No,
you're not tough guys.
I've never met a tough guy, Kevin. You know what I'm saying? The only Kevin I can think of, I know, is like kind of funny as Kevin. I'm like, look, he ain't stealing shit of cars.
PSVR for the players.
All right, that's the one VR story update for this week is that Hitman, remember several months ago, talked about the fact that there was this weird shit happening between Hitman and No Man's Sky and all this sort of stuff where they were like, on PlayStation, you need to play the PS4 version to play PSVR games, which meant that if you brought Hitman 3 for PS5, you wouldn't be able to play the PSVR version. You needed to actually buy the PS4 version and then get the free upgrade to the PS5 version, so you had both versions available, so you'd be able to play PSVR. Yes, it was a fucking mess. Anyway, just as a PSA, Hitman has Hitman, No Man's Sky, and all these games are sorting their shit out. So upload VR rights. Kind of. Following in the footsteps of No Man's Sky, the PS5 version of the upcoming Hitman 3 will include the PS4 version to ensure no one misses out on PSVR support. PSVR integration with Hitman 3 was announced earlier this year, but at the time, neither Sony nor developer IO Interactive confirmed exactly what versions for the PlayStation console were supported. A few weeks back, we confirmed that you will in fact need the PS4 version of the game to play the game in VR, even if you have a PS5. At the time, Sony told us that it had not announced native PSVR VR games for PS5. So yes, the only way to play the only way to play Hitman 3 with PSVR on PS5 is via backwards compatibility PS4 version. And yes, if you're confused, it is as stupid and confusing as it sounds. Like, I don't understand. Yeah. I still do not understand how. Look, Sony are just completely dropping the ball when it comes to PSVR and PS5, as far as I'm concerned. Like, the fact that it only supports PS4 games for VR reading and support. Like, what the fuck is that? There's some weird shit. Anyway, in a blog post today, IO confirmed that whether you buy PS3 digitally or physically on PS5, you'll get a free digital copy of the PS4 version too. So you'll need that version installed on your PS5 if you want to play PSVR. So good. There you go. Because this is the thing I was worried about when the story happened. It was ridiculous. It was like, if you're not a until they did this, it was a case of if you're not in the know enough and you're like, you had PSVR, you wanted to play Hitman VR, you have a PS5, you want to play Hitman 3, best quality version, you would have probably just brought the PS5 version of the game, started playing it for a few hours on your PS5, gone, maybe I'll try out the PSVR version Hitman now or whatever. And then would have been like, well, where do I do that?
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And there was no PS5 games, of course, don't come with a downgrade option at at default. Usually, yeah. The thing is, a lot of PS4 games are coming with upgrades for free. So now they've had to go, we'll have to include a downgrade. So it's it's weird.
It's a weird one. But you know, they've done the best thing that they possibly could, so it's a win.
It's good. I'm glad that good job IO Interactive. Still not happy with Sony with the fact that they had to like the weird.
This is the solution,
yeah.
Especially when we've only got less than a terabyte of hard drive space.
Yeah. Well,
so you need to commit to one or the other.
It's like a weird.
Unless you got nothing else.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like, is that? I don't know. There's another question like about what you could install and not install to get like the VR version plus Hitman. I don't know. Hopefully. I don't know. We'll see when it comes out early next year for this stuff. Yep. But there's your PSA. So
side question: have you gotten your
no
adapter yet?
No. You better believe when I do. If I don't tell you beforehand, you'll find out live on air. You know. So, but no. And I think when I ordered it, which was when did we order these things? Like a couple weeks prior to launch. So would that be like early November, maybe late October? Somewhere around there. I think when I ordered it, I was like, didn't I say to you then at some point, I was like, there's no way these things are coming before the end of this year. The end of this year. I remember thinking like the only people who are getting these things on time are like in America or somewhere, like depending on where these things are flying from or whatever. But if these are in some shipping container in fucking America or like if those are in some shipping container in Japan or fucking somewhere, it'd probably be better. But I have a weird inkling they're just like sitting in some warehouse in America or some fucking bullshit. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's show. Follow us on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Send in questions, topics for the show, mail at explosionnetwork.com. Discord is explosionnetwork.com/Discord. Come talk about Cyberpunk if you want. I don't know. Do what you need to do. And until next week, remember that every trophy counts. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.